It's going to be exciting. All right, real quick, wanted to touch on the top 75 or the 75th anniversary list just came out. Now, you might think it is 75 players. It's actually 76 players because there was a tie for one of the stuff. So it's 76 players make the top 75 list. Now, there are some interesting, or what I wanted to touch on were the players that are currently playing in the NBA that I thought we should talk about, or not talk about, but I want to point out. So Giannis made it. Carmelo Anthony, I thought was very surprising, also made the list. Stephen Curry, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, James Harden, LeBron, Kyrie, Damian Lillard, another surprising person that made the top 75 list, in my opinion. Just in terms of accolades, like the man's an amazing player, but like in terms of accolades, he doesn't have a lot. Chris Paul, and another surprising, Russell Westbrook. Even though this man won all these MVPs and all that, still, Russell Westbrook is there. Now, Jeff, we talked a little bit about this before the podcast started. There's some snubs. There's one main guy that you brought up that was a snub, and that's Kyrie Irving. He's not on this list. What do you think?
I will not say that I'm upset that Kyrie's not on it, because I think there's guys that are even more deserving of it that got snubbed in my mind. I'm looking at a list, and I actually would want to say I have someone that I right now want to fight for to be on the list rather than some of the guys that's on the list. I'm assuming that this list is comprised of accolade. It's comprised of sheer dominance of what you meant to the league and the work of body that you carried, right?
Yeah.
Because of that, and I spoke about this person earlier in the pod, I believe Dwight Howard, there's no way you leave him off this list.
Yeah.
I think the guy's career has been minimized because of what happened in the second half of his career, but it is almost a joke to not think about what Dwight was able to do with the first half of his career and how dominant, how he was a leader. He was unequivocally a leader for the team that he was on. And for him to be left off the list, I can try to pull up some accolades, because as we look at it and we look at most individuals that are on this list, it's because they're accolades, right? And they have an extensive list of accolades. Dwight Howard is right up there. Dwight Howard, and a lot of people forget about this. I believe Dwight Howard had 3 consecutive Defensive Players of the Year. He's an 8-time All-Star player. He's an 8-time All-NBA player. He's a 5-time All-Defensive player. He's a 3-time, like I mentioned, Defensive Player of the Year. And there was some years he was in the MVP. He was in the MVP talks, right? So for him to be left off that list definitely is something that it's like I am a little upset about that.
Yeah,
and it's almost arguable to say, and it's kind of crazy for some people might feel that this is crazy to say that he has a more decorated career than even Carmelo. He brought his team to the finals.
For sure.
He has that finals appearance on it, being his own leader, being the leader of his own team. So because of that, I'm just sitting here and I'm really thinking, how do you leave him off the list? Kyrie, the reason why I'm not too terribly upset, yes, Kyrie has accolades such as like being All-Star Game MVP, Rookie of the Year, his All NBAs, his
champion
finals, champion championship, his finals appearances. Yes, he has all of those. And I think that should be a reason why he is at least considered in the honorable mentions. But there is more of a conversation to be had about Dwight Howard in my mind first.
Yeah, I think exactly what you said. Even as a Knicks fan, like I agree 100%. I'd rather have Dwight Howard on this list over Carmelo Anthony. Of this it's just this man was so dominant. Remember when Dwight Howard went to the Lakers to play with Kobe and Steve Nash. How afraid everybody was.
Mhm.
It was like, oh my god, they're gonna win the championship. It's over. Next season's over. Like it's similar to like what happened with when Kevin Durant went to Golden State. Of like everyone was like, this is over, but everyone thought that was gonna happen. Just that's because of how dominant Dwight Howard was. Now his career went downwards from there, but like you said, like 8 NBA all time or NBA selection team, like all NBA team selections and all that. Like defensive player of the year, like this man, it's the best resume that's not on this list. Um, I think that's something to say for. I think Kyrie should be somewhere in that conversation. Um, I think it's I I don't think it's crazy to say he has more of a reason to be on that list over a player like Damian Lillard. As much as we
Yeah.
all like Damian Lillard, like just look at what just look at the accolades right there. And you can probably say throughout their career, they're both around the same talent wise, but one is a champion and one has all these things, and the other one is rookie of the year.
Yeah.
And
And
that's about it.
you know, and this is kind of the unfair part about it is there's two things that I would say. And granted, I'm not in the conspiracy theme. I am not a conspiracy maker. I just think that it is you can have this question, you can put this question out there and have everybody wonder and answer it in their own homes and keep that between themselves. But how much does when they did the 50th anniversary at the All-Star game, they presented the jackets to them, right?
Yeah.
How much of the Kyrie situation with the vax play a part into do we go down these can of worms?
Yeah.
And the NBA says like, it's easier not to go down these can of worms than if we don't put them on this list, right? So there's that. And then the second thing, much like you mentioned, is there's two people on the list that make me go, huh, in comparison to Kyrie. And I wouldn't say Carmelo. I would say Dame, and it's Russ. I remember years ago we've had conversations about this. I remember us debating
Yeah.
with some other friends of ours about the Kyrie and Russ dynamic and who is better. And the issue is, and this is where I see it also with Dame, is that as an individual talent, they may be asked to lead a team a little bit more. The facts are Kyrie just has such a smaller sample size of doing that because he was never really asked to. And when he did, he just did not like his situation that he was in. And granted, he chose to leave. That does not mean that Kyrie could not do it because and I always feel that people minimize this, is that Kyrie led the Celtics to the 1 seed and everyone just is like, Kyrie's the worst thing for the Celtics when he left and this and that. He lost to granted, the Bucks, who we know at that point still have Giannis.
Yep.
So I don't think there was enough of a sample size to really say one way or the other about Kyrie being able to lead a team on his own. And because of that, it feels like, and someone mentioned this on Twitter, is that we went years sometimes where we question, is Dame really even an all-star? Is Dame really, would you take
Yeah.
Dame over this person? To now he's a top 75 player because he went through so much struggle. He grind so much. What he had to do for his team, so it felt more of like they did a little bit of a sympathy play. But granted, I don't want to go down that
Yeah.
road. And then with Russ, I I appreciate the MVP. I appreciate the triple doubles, but those do not equate to what Kyrie has done in his career
Yeah.
and the shot that he made that propelled the team to the championship.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, think about it. This list came out because of voting, and I'm sure not every voter is putting their bias away. So a lot of people don't like Kyrie, and a lot of people love Dame. Dame is like everyone's favorite player. It's your favorite. It's your favorite player's favorite player. Like, so I see like it makes sense why he makes that list, and yeah, some other guys I want to bring up that are off this list that have some arguments. Someone like Tony Parker, Alonzo Mourning. You mentioned Dwight Howard, Tracy McGrady, Chris Bosh. Some people may even say like Vince Carter, maybe Paul Gasol, Manu Ginobili. These are all players that like could potentially be on this list. I didn't even talk about like there's even some like older players' names that like you may even question like, oh, what did he do to deserve to be on this list? But yeah, it's overall, I think it's a pretty good list. I think it's a pretty good list, but there's some snubs on there that make you think.
And you know, I was watching the Inside the NBA with on Tuesday, and they mentioned, I think it was Charles Barkley that mentioned this, is that he doesn't like the thought that they redid the list, so to speak. I agree. It should have
Yeah,
been the 50 guys from last time, and then you open up 25 slots because that's how you get to a real number that makes sense. Because there's guys that now that are probably on the list that people felt, you know what, they got snubbed on the last list. So now I'm going to bring them up into this list. And now you're minimizing the chances of guys that, should really be on the list now. And, you know, there's just no way we could get them all, right?
yeah.
There's just no way we would be able to get them all. And there's definitely bias that plays a part into this, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it's I'm losing my train of thought. You mentioned, oh yeah, Charles Barkley. It makes it tough if you like you're saying if you kept those 50 players, it makes it tough this way that we're doing it because the game has changed so much and there's
Mm.
the talent level is completely different than what it was before, but that still doesn't take away from what these previous players have done. So I would have actually liked to see if they done it like Charles Barkley suggested and kept those 50 guys that were there because yeah, I'm sure they took off some guys that maybe didn't have the greatest numbers compared to today and all that. So
Now,
interesting. Don't hate the list
I
though. Yeah.
I will say something now too, and